This one doesn't. This one says, please make a note of when you start charging. Oh my. It stays good. It doesn't say. I've got a full battery with just. Good evening, Laura.
Wake up, everyone. Welcome everyone to this, the full Town Council meeting of Wimble Minster Town Council on this, the Tuesday 29th of July 2025. My name is Simon Wheeler. I'm Deputy Mayor, designated survivor. So for those of you who don't know, the Mayor, Town Mayor, has had a health issue and can't be here today. I'm sure you'll join me in wishing him speedy recovery. Great to see Councillor Ryan back. I'm glad to see you so well. Thank you for coming tonight. So we'll move on with the meeting. First of all, can I remind everybody that this is being recorded and the owl will pick up all sorts of things, so just remember that as we go through the meeting. So I ask everybody to make sure that their phones and mobile devices are on silent or off for the duration of this meeting, please. And regarding standing, I'm easy. If you wish to stand, that would be great. If you can't stand, then understood. But if you could project your voice so that it can be picked up, not only by the owl but everybody else in the room, I would appreciate that. There are some, like myself, that are slightly hard of hearing. So I'll move on to item 2, apologies for absence.
We've received apologies from Councillors Hart, Brown, Bartlett and Trim, some business related and some non-business related.
Okay, I can have a proposal to accept those apologies. Councillor Billington, seconded Councillor Nash. All those in favour? Everybody, thank you. And then declarations of interest and dispensations. So we normally note Councillor Bartlett and Councillor Brown as they're not here. There aren't any. Does anybody else have any dispensations or interest that they would like to raise for anything that's on the agenda this evening? No? Okay. Okay, with that then, we welcome our PCC, David Sidbrick. We've come up with a few questions. I don't know if you've had, I think you've had them.
I've had them.
How do you want to do this? Do you want to go through the answers to them, or do you want me to? We could do it like a Parkinson thing. I could ask you and you could answer. I don't know, whichever you.
Whatever makes you feel.
I'll tell you what. So I'll give an overview. So the overview of the questions were really around the Town Council notes that the recent crime statistics on Dorset Police website, violence and sexual offences following a number of high-profile violent crimes that have taken place in Wimble Minster over the last few years. And what we're looking for is what actions in terms of priorities, resources and operations is being taken to address these issues. Especially as there doesn't appear to be a correlation between these statistics and two current priorities of tackling antisocial behaviour and drug dealing.
Okay, well, we'll take that one first. Firstly, thank you very much indeed for inviting me here to address those issues. I guess the first thing I want to say is I absolutely understand when you have some of those high-profile incidents, the fear and consternation that they can bring in the community is absolutely unacceptable. The arson one, for example, I knew one of the victims personally, so I know exactly about that. There is a confusing phrase at the bottom. There's no correlation between these statistics and your current priorities. I want to make it clear that I have 6 priorities, of which 2 of them, the first one is to cut crime and antisocial behaviour. The third one is to fight high harm and violent crime. And between the pair of them, they would cover all of this. We have to be aware, for example, that the issue of addiction and drugs in our society, drugs drive half the theft, 70% of the shoplifting, half the violence. And even when we look at things which we think might not be possibly be related or we haven't thought about, such as domestic abuse, we know that recently we did a pilot and 75% of offenders who came into custody for domestic abuse had cocaine or heroin in their system. So absolutely I have those priorities around those.
Can you just enlighten the group you talked earlier about the kind of mission that you went on? I think it's quite useful. in terms of Class A drugs or categorising cannabis as a...
Yes, I'm very happy to talk about that. My background before I became Police and Crime Commissioner was in the pharmaceutical industry. And because of that, I actually worked with a number of the drugs which aren't given the priority that they should be. So for example, well, I term them as illegal gateway drugs. So things like ketamine. For example, in the last year, ketamine's gone up threefold in this country. And the kids are being sold this idea that it's safe. I used to market it for a living for the pharmaceutical company. It will erode your bladder. We have young people in this country who need bladder reconstruction, who are wearing nappies because of their ketamine addiction. And you hardly ever hear anything about that until very recently. In a similar manner with cannabis, and I'm talking about THC here, there has been a lot of work done over the last, since 2016, looking at it from the point of view of birth defects, cancer, and also we have seen, because of the strength has increased markedly since what people may remember from the 60s, we now have a real correlation between psychosis and cannabis, and we have seen some terrible things happen. Witnessed the young man, the young schoolboy who was killed in London recently by somebody who was in a psychotic break from cannabis with a machete. For this reason, I want the government to look at both of those drugs. They already have asked the Advisory Council on Misuse of Drugs to look at ketamine. I would like them to do the same to look at cannabis. And that's why I have been vocal in the press about this recently. I was able to get 13 other police and crime commissioners to agree with me and write a letter to the policing minister. And she's sitting down with me to discuss that in September and the new data which has come out soon. So I'm very, very clear that this has to be one of our priorities. I think one of the interesting things about this is you have to look at all the drugs which are being used by people. I was just talking to one of the Dorset councillors about the issue they're having in a local area because of a chemist which is supplying methadone to people. Well, of course, we want people to have their methadone, but actually that replaces an addiction with an addiction. I am pushing hard with the government to look at another drug which you can give weekly or monthly, which then allows the person to actually get a job, get accommodation, look at the other things in their life that they can fix rather than worrying about their addiction. So there's a whole push that I'm driving around the issue of drugs in our society. And that's just talking about prevention and treatment there, not touching on enforcement, which we also do in a different way now across Dorset.
So one of the things that I wanted to do, or one of the things I didn't want to do, is kind of come at you. What I'd like a little bit is for you to say what sorts of things can we do as a town council to support those sorts of things. So one of the things that springs to mind is to get out to the youth, which we're all kind of keen to do, to highlight things that you've just said, because your second person, the youth leader that we're interested in, has said exactly the same about the bladder issues from ketamine, which we've got Ketty Corp just up the road, which is a name that they've given it.
Right.
So we're aware that that is a big one that's around here. So we're looking at youth, trying to get it from youth. But what I'd like when we go through these questions, if there's anything you think that we should be doing more of as a town council, because at the moment we feel quite helpless.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. But what you just said, the fact that you're getting more interaction with young people, the fact you're getting a youth leader. What we did about 3 weeks ago now, we actually had a webinar on ketamine, and we were expecting maybe 50 people to come. We had 400 people come from across Dorset. That was teachers, that was social workers, that was youth leaders, that was all the people. So that's probably why that person is very much more aware of it. And this is the key, is increasing awareness.
Okay, great. So the second one is sorry, yes.
You said you were a bit, you had the priorities.
Yeah.
So basically, if we go to the Dorset Police website and you put Wimborne in, there's only two priorities on there, tackling antisocial behaviour and tackling drug dealing.
Right.
For the area.
For the area, okay, that's fine. That's the neighbourhood policing team's
Yes.
plans.
Yes.
And they will be looking at what the people are saying to. So people will be saying antisocial behaviour and they'll be saying drug dealing. And what they will be looking at is they'll be looking at how that affects. So drug dealing, I said 70% of shoplifting is driven by addiction. So for example, I know you've had a spike in shoplifting recently. So that's what they will be looking at. And if they can take out the drug dealers who are supplying the people, that's the game plan behind it. I was talking about my priorities, which are in the police and crime plan, which obviously I encourage everybody to go and have a look at, and you'll see all the priorities there. I will say, can I say one thing about this? Because also part of the question is what the police doing about it. So what you will see is over the last year, we got an extra £1 million from government for hotspot policing. And that identified hotspots. Now, those were particularly identified in Bournemouth and Weymouth. But this year we've got another £1 million. Across those hotspots, there's been a 70% reduction in ASB and 7% reduction in violence. What that has allowed, that has allowed the this year to move that fund further out across Dorset.
So that's interesting because one of my questions was going to be, again, this is what it is for me, is looking at if I look at the statistics of West Dorset versus East Dorset, there's a lot less crime reported in West Dorset, which would seem to indicate that there's more policing there than there is here, or more money being spent on policing there. Those are your statistics, or the statistics that are here. Yeah. So we're quite high at the moment. The shoplifting one, I would say, is extremely low because the reporting is and that's the feedback we're getting from the police is.
No, that's absolutely right.
So can you take me through what would be the process for reporting shoplifting? If I was in the Marks and Spencer's garage, which is a residence raised out with me, that's why I choose that. But the car could have easily chosen or Waitrose. In fact, I could choose any Crew clothing. You know, you've got people stood outside Crew clothing in Crew clothing clothes that they've taken from Crew clothing. You know, so when you get that, what can these shops do? What's the process that they take today? Just walk me through that.
Well, it will vary according to the shop, and this is one of the things which I'm trying to address. So, where should we start? Let's start talking about retail chains. Retail chains have different philosophies according to which retail chain it is. For example, they may internally report. So they will internally report, and then that may come across to the police later. The number is 5% of shoplifting gets reported to the police. Now, what we've been able to do in Dorset is we've been able to change the dialogue. I started something called the Dorset Safer Business Partnership when I first came into office. Every quarter, the bids, the chambers, and some of the retail chains, we meet together to try and improve reporting and get a closer connection between the police and the retail trade. That latter bit is working. So when somebody reports, they would report online, they would be sent a theft pack. Now, up to now, that theft pack has had to be delivered. This is, if I'm blunt, this is analog for a digital age, all right? So the theft pack had to be delivered, it had to be filled out, then it had to be picked up, chain of evidence. What we've been able to do very recently is that now can be delivered by email, so we don't have those two bits. But there's still a fundamental problem, and the fundamental problem is this. Your job in your shop is to sell stuff and make money, right? So every time you have to fill out a theft pack, that takes time. And whether you're a large retailer or a small retailer, the problem is without those reports, the police can't do anything, they don't know what's going on. So we're trying to make that as simple and easy as possible. One of the things that does occur now across Dorset is something called the UK PAC, United Kingdom Partners Against Crime. And they have got a number of things. Their system links up shops, so you can see who's about. So they share who's operating in the area. They will also help make certain that your prosecution, your theft, is in good shape. But they have to be paid for. It's £20 a month if you take up that option. Business Crime Reduction Partnership in BCP has taken up that option, and there's nearly 700 shops there. I've put in a bit of pump priming money in order to get it going in the rest of Dorset.
Is there an issue between the bid and that pack? I seem to remember that if you paid into the bid, that there could be a problem with them paying the £20 into the pack. I may be wrong in that. It's just something in the back of my mind. And it may be one that we can take away now.
I think we're going to have to take that one off.
So in terms of reporting, you talk about analogue for digital age. We've got the 111 service.
No, that's the health service. You've got the 101 service.
101. Okay.
Yeah. Now the 101 service is the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've also got the online service.
Okay.
So you've got a Dorset Police website, and that's the best way of reporting something which has happened when it's not a 999 situation. So you would go on the Dorset Police website, you would report, and that's the best way of doing it. So now then you would get sent the theft pack, and then that would go back.
So we could get those statistics when a theft pack gets sent out. That's a report of a crime, right?
Yeah.
So would that show on the shoplifting, or would it only show on the shoplifting once the theft pack has been completed? I would imagine it's when the theft pack is completed.
No, that says reports.
Okay.
So it could be of those 30 that some of them are still in the process.
Okay.
I think it's important to understand though the effect of having this system in Dorset, the effect of having the Dorset Safer Business Partnership, this closer join up, and when the reports come in, it's made a difference. We've now got 2 operations happening in Dorset which there weren't happening before. One is Operation Spotter. That's if you have a significant number of reports in a localised area, they will use undercover officers as part of their ways of dealing with it. The other one is Operation Shopkeeper, and that's really, really important because what Operation Shopkeeper does is it links shoplifting reports. So if you catch somebody for shoplifting, they might go to court, and one incident, chances are they're not going to get much of a sanction. It's the old 80-20 rule. Most of the shoplifting is being done by a relatively small number of people. And now with Operation Shopkeeper, we're able to get at them. So they now go to court with 10, 20 offences, which means that they will have significant custodial sentences. That's what we're seeing. But even more important than that is what's called the civil orders. So, for example, somebody might get put in prison for 8 to 12 months, but they might have a civil order for 3 years to either stay out of certain shops, or the best one is stay outdoors. And we are now getting this sort of thing. How the police measure success is through something called positive outcomes. So that would be arrests and the civil orders, for example. And so for shoplifting, in the whole of the UK, it goes from 5% positive outcome in one force to 32% positive outcome in the best performing force. Dorset is running at 27 to 28%, well up with the best performing forces. If we look at Operation Shopkeeper alone, some months we're hitting 60, 70% positive outcomes. It's changing the dial here to the extent that the National League on Shoplifting said to me, we're one of 3 places which is beginning to suppress the growth.
It doesn't feel that way anymore.
I'm certain it doesn't feel that way anymore. And that's why when you have something like that, you need to have the reports. You've had a spike. You had a spike a year ago. Similar sort of thing, you've got a spike now. But now, as I understand it, and forgive me, let me grab this. As I understand it, 4 out of the 5 main offenders have been arrested, some charged, and 1 is currently in prison as a result of being found guilty of theft offences and breaching conditions. So the police are reacting, but they need the reports. And I know that some people don't want to report, and so that's why your big manager and the force are going around once a month to retailers to try and encourage more reporting.
Would it help if we funded a PCSO? It's a generic question. We talked about this a couple of years ago. Would that help?
Yes, undoubtedly, you would have somebody else, you'd have more visibility. That person, if you funded it, within certain constraints, it would be for Wimborne as well. Obviously, if there's a huge issue, then the Chief Constable would still be in command of that PCSO and would put them somewhere.
Yeah, okay. I'm kind of covering as we go through. Okay, so just
sorry.
So on the funding was the one that I asked you. The funding between West and East Dorset.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a misunderstanding to think that West Dorset necessarily has more than East Dorset because the crime is less there. The funding will be put in the places where the reports, where the demand is. So that is the situation. So when I look at the demand, it varies across the county. There are certain things which there's more in West Dorset, certain things which there are more here. But it is impossible to say that just because it looks quiet there, it is. So I think that's an important thing. The funding is decided by the Chief Constable according to the demand which they will see. And that would be everything from public order issues, protests, those sorts of things, down to shoplifting, down to ASB.
So the next one is following on from that. In terms of antisocial behaviour in young people, what actions are being carried out to connect with young people rather than issue behaviour orders for the ones that misbehave?
Interesting question. Look, I'm very clear that I expect Dorset Police to deal with the reducing the ASB and criminality. I do not expect them to be social workers. Now let me caveat that. I do expect them to be able to connect with young people, but I don't expect it to be their primary role to run youth clubs and those sorts of things. Because, being blunt, we don't have the resources to do that. What they will do, though, is they do work closely in partnership with Dorset Council, the Community Safety Team, and the Council Youth Services. There is plenty of engagement with young people through early years hubs, drop-in advice, youth outreach, and civic engagement, and that includes here. And when they do it, they do wear identifiable kit. The other thing I'll say also is that we also have a Safer Schools team, which go into schools, and they will deal with a number of issues. They will talk about, for example, knife crime. They will talk about consent. They will talk about drugs and the law. So they do a lot of interaction with young people. What I am doing with my office is taking it to the next stage. So this is basically consulting with young people. We've got consultation going on at the moment to understand how they should be talked to when we're trying to deal with some of these particular issues and what things they would want to see in order to address it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, and I really welcome a link up with any sort of social youth service that we put into the town. So maybe we can link up, keep close on that. So the final one is what extra support and provision will be given or available for the town culture programme of events and activities, which basically is the whole of next year.
Well, what they'll do is they will assess it, a bit like they do with your folk festival. They will assess your events, what's going on, and then put the resources in to do with what they think is going to be
by event.
Yeah, by event. That's how they do it.
Okay. I want to go around the room, give everybody a chance to ask questions if they need to, or for clarity or anything. If anybody has any questions, please put your hands up. Thank you, Dave.
To what degree do you find that people are challenging shoplifters and confronting them at the moment of crime? And I heard a report recently in London that one of the reasons why small independent shoplifters who would be a bit more gung-ho in the past are no longer is because of knife crime, which you've just mentioned once, rather than it being a major issue underlying people's reticence in taking action themselves.
Okay, so are you asking me about people generally or the retailers?
Both.
Both. Okay, regarding the retailers, having sat down with them on my 6 monthly meetings, their main philosophy is they will not ask their staff to intervene. They may have security guards. If they have security guards, those will vary, and some of them will intervene. From Dorset Police's point of view, they will deploy to any store which has detained somebody. That's one of the things which I've made certain is now occurring. The issue of knife crime in Dorset is a really interesting one. When you look at the numbers, we have just over 300 knife offences. That's across the whole county. Last year, somebody put a headline up: 300 stabbings in the centre of Bournemouth in a year. Not true. We have something like 308 knife offences. That puts us in the bottom 5 for number of knife offences. We're doing really, really well. I think people generally are worried about the knife issue, because when you look across the country, you can see lots and lots of other situations. We have had situations in Bournemouth, so I think I absolutely understand that concern of intervention. Having said that, I do know there are people who intervene. I think it's up to them to make those choices. It's not something that I could advise and countenance.
I do know that one of our councillors tackled some, and the police did come when he made a citizen arrest. So
exactly.
I think it's that you assess whether it's you have the confidence in.
Bingo.
Correct. Okay.
I mean, I've chased 3 myself, but it's.
So
I'm a bit bigger.
So just to summarise then, and I'm going to try and get this right, is we should look at PCSO. That will have a material benefit.
I can send you the information.
That would be lovely. Thank you. Is it worth us? We want to link the youth service to get David's counsel once we've got a youth service in place. To make sure that we cover, the messaging needs to be consistent and the same.
Well, okay, so if I can take 1 minute. What I brought into Dorset is a number of things. We have Escape Line, a charity which goes into schools and talks about county lines and also talks to parents and kids. They might be an option to get involved. Yeah. And we have the Talk About Trust, who are run from Poundbury, but are a national outfit, who I've commissioned to do group work on drugs in schools. So maybe something that we can link them up with as well.
We need to make sure that Town Culture is aware that any plans need to reach out and maybe on their event management plan have connections with the police at that time, or we need to do that in a timely fashion so that the police can get to where they need. And forgive me, you seem to indicate that given our growing nighttime economy and the fact that we've almost doubled in size in terms of a town, that Bournemouth and Dorchester's crime being focused on now, there's a chance to look at going wide with funding.
So that's exactly what's happening.
And is that something that Wimborne can benefit from?
Yes, that's exactly what's happening now.
Okay.
Because we did that last year with that £1 million, this £1 million, we're now looking wider across Dorset The government wants to know which towns we're going to put it in. We've said Wimborne is one of those towns, so you will see more patrols.
Right.
And I think that's actually already started according to Sergeant Payne's report.
And the other item was, we're going to look if there's some sort of conflict between PAC and bid. And if you're happy, I'll take that as an action, speak to the bid and come and liaise with you if it's possible.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Any further questions?
I've got one clarification.
Brilliant, okay.
Earlier I said 70% ASB, 70% violence reduction. What I mean is 70% of those hotspots saw an ASB as violence reduction. It's slightly different, but I want to do it to make certain that's on it.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much for coming. Please don't be a stranger, because we love having you here. And the information flow is useful, and obviously you'll gain a lot from us as well as and when we have issues in the town. So thank you.
No, absolutely. I'll always come back.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay. We want to bring up safer streets from item 13 into this place, or do it later. Fine. Okay. Perfect. In which case,
Do you need me?
if you need to shoot off, then thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 5, public participation. We've got an item on the cemetery report, which is some correspondence from a member of the public. I do apologise, I don't know your name. Yvette, good to I've read your letter there.
Oh,
So you wanted to say something.
Well, it's not an actual criticism of Craig at all. I've mentioned spoken to him a lot, lovely chap, but I think he's battling because it's too much for one. So you'll get areas of the cemetery that will look nice at any given time, but the whole cemetery never looks nice at the same time. So, I mean, I visit, my sadly lost my dad 3.5 years ago, and I visit his grave every week, sometimes more, but at a minimum every week. And I find myself thinking, I wonder what it's going to be like this week. I wonder whether it's going to be scruffy or whether it's actually going. And then when I go, I sort of say, oh, how do you know they cut the grass? Do you know they cut the grass today? But I've even taken my own strimmer, my own shears, tidied up. And what I've been photographing recently, we're not just talking a few little bits of weeds here and there. We're talking weeds up to here. And well, it looks like it hasn't been done for weeks, and you think, well, I don't think they could grow that high in that time, and it's all sort of around the area. And to me, it's just disrespectful. It upsets me. I hate to see, the area looking scruffy. And even if I go and I tend to dance, it's like, the last time I cut grass with a strimmer, I went as far either side to the edge of the 2 plots and to the back, so I went wide, but where do I take it? Do I start taking the strimmer and doing, 6 grades either side? But as I said, you always go in and think, oh, that area is done, and you drive up and that area is done, but it would just be nice once to see it all look nice. What Rebecca has said to me is, and unfortunately my phone's packing up on me, so I can't get anything out of my folders. And I wish I'd actually printed out her email, but she said something about it had changed, the responsibility has changed as to who's taking care of the cemetery now.
Yeah, it used to be a joint working committee, and it's now kind of, so I think from what I've read, we're going to look at that area. Councillor Burke. Okay, thank you, Councillor.
I think if I've heard correctly, it's not that easy to hear. This lady is going to the cemetery with her mechanical equipment and working. So if something goes wrong, are we insured for that? Have we covered by insurance? Can anybody go and do things in the cemetery and it doesn't affect our insurance, or are they insured themselves?
Okay, I think the point is that we need to have a look at the I think we were going to have a look at the plans and sort of management plan for the cemetery and take on board your comments.
Yeah. Rebecca, sorry.
Can I just give a bit of background?
Yes.
So just for the councillors that are relatively new to the town council, The cemetery was managed by a joint management committee. That was ceased and Wimborne took it over probably nearly 2 years ago now. We inherited a management plan for the site, and we are going to review that because at certain points through the joint management committee's history, they employed one ground staff to 3 ground staff. So we want to look at the management plan with fresh eyes, with the grounds manager, and come back with a recommendation, a plan going forward.
Yeah.
Can I just say something else? That kind of, I didn't know that it was 2 years ago, but that sort of ties in because, you know, I do luckily still have my mum with me, she's 90 now. And when she comes, she said, oh, it hasn't always been like this. You know, when we first laid Dad to rest, it seemed to be better, and Dad's been laid to rest now for just three and 40 years. So that kind of ties in with it's the last couple of years. And what Rebecca has said before is Craig doesn't ask for help, and apparently when she has spoken to, I think like the head groundsman, as you call him, he said, you know, we have got others that can help, but he doesn't kind of tap into that help necessarily. And I said, well, it needs to be communicated in such a way that perhaps there's a reason why he feels he can't ask for help. Perhaps he thinks he's going to lose his job if he says, I can't manage it on my own. But I think it's too much for one. You know, because I do go quite often, I have spoken to other, you know, family members who've gone to visit their loved ones, and I'm kind of getting the same message. It didn't used to look like this.
Okay, well we've got a plan to look at that.
That's great.
So if you could bear with us a while, and hopefully you'll see I'm sure you will see an improvement. I mean, my mum's there; she went there last year, so I've got vested interest, and I'll be up there regularly. So
Yeah. Well, we don't live in Ferndown now, but my parents moved down from the Midlands when I was 6 months old to Wimborne. So we felt like we were bringing Dad back to kind of where it all started for us as a family in the south. And, you know, he loved Wimborne, so we felt it was the right thing to do. It wasn't something he had ever voiced where he wanted to be. It was just, it seemed the right thing to do.
okay.
But to this gentleman's point, I don't particularly want to take my my garden tools. I want to go and sit quietly with Dad. You know, I do it because it's a necessity, not because I want to suddenly take over as groundsman. Woman.
Thank you for your letter,
That's okay.
and thank you for coming this evening.
I mean, as I said, I've got great respect for Craig, and I've got a good relationship with him.
Yeah,
So
Craig's
it's not kind of a complaint, it's just an observation.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you.
This has all come about with the cutting down of staff. We always had at least 2 full-time staff at the cemetery and 1 part-time clerk. It's just too much for one man, to be quite honest.
That'll come into the new plan then. Okay, thank you, Councillor Roberts.
And I think it would be a real shame to lose Craig if it gets to a point where he says, you know what, I can't do this on my own, it's just too much, and then you're going to be starting again with somebody else.
I think there are options, so we'll work with Craig. I wouldn't want to lose Craig either.
No, so she's a good guy.
All right, thank you, Beth. Thank you.
I'm looking for a proposal second there that you have to do.
So I'll propose that we look at the new plan. I'd like to be involved actually. Can I have a seconder? Okay, Councillor Jaggs, all those in favour? Okay. Any abstentions?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, moving on then. So to receive and note information report. So this is where we go to Dorset Police. Do we have anything to Dorset Police?
Yes, unfortunately Sergeant Payne couldn't be here, but he has provided a summary that the Police Crime Commission has referred to. So the shoplifting statistics he's given me go back to January. So there were 3 reported shoplifting offences in Wimborne in January, 8 in February, 21 in March, 33 in April and 11 in May. So based between April 24 and March 25, nationally there was 500,000 shoplifting offences reported, which is a 19.5% increase on the previous year and 55% compared to 2022-23. Shoplifting offences seen a very high rise since the pandemic and now stand at the highest level since 2002-2003. So that's the national picture. So, as the PCC referred to, 5 main offenders have been arrested for offences at 5 main locations where the shoplifting offences take place, which are Morrison's, Co-op, Waitrose, the M&S Garage on Line Road, and Wolford Mill, the Co-op Garage. Superdrug's also been targeted, but not to the extent of those 5 locations. Some have been charged, one offender is currently in prison. So as well as criminal proceedings, the Police and Crime Commission referred to the civil options, which include community protection warnings, which all 5 offenders have received, and 2 have been escalated to community protection notices because they've breached the warnings. And part of that order is that they can't live at a local address or go to a local address area. There are the foot patrols taking place under Operation Track. That's every day for at least 20 minutes in the town centre. These have resulted in actually dealing with shoplifting and making arrests. And they're working with the bid about reporting.
Okay, brilliant. We also then looked at our Dorset councillors. Councillor Top.
A very short one, been a quiet month. We have had progress made on the Safe Places network from the Dorset Council side. We have the Chief of the Department has effectively signed off for himself. We're just waiting on one final piece of feedback from Children's Safeguarding, and I think then we have some money actually coming from Dorset Council to help us progress this further. That's all.
Lovely, thank you. We don't have Councillor Morgan, Councillor Atwell or Councillor Bartlett today, so we haven't received anything interim from them.
Actually, I think David will tell me something. I'll see if I can find it. I'll come back to it, sorry. I'll print it off somewhere. So if I come back to it.
Yes, okay. What we'll do then is go around the councillor representatives. We'll go around the room. Just really, what I'm looking for is a verbal report from councillors on their representative role, rather than general observations about something that has happened. It's something that kind of, you know, if you've had something specific that's happened during your tenure, so it's up to Councillor Billington.
Yes, I've had communication from Liz White regarding the Oxford Trading Association. As Councillor Roberts has mentioned, it's become quite moribund. It hasn't had an AGM recently. Membership is declining. So I'm arranging a meeting with her to discuss what the options are. They are thinking of winding the whole association up. There will be a residue of funds for which they want some advice from the council. So I'll have a meeting with Liz White and then I'll report back to council from there.
That's quite sad, really.
Yeah.
Councillor Nash.
Nothing to report, I think. Nothing to report. Nothing to report, Chairman.
Just a twinning association with the line, we had a garden party last weekend.
Oh, okay.
So that went okay.
Good.
So all's progressing with that.
Brilliant, brilliant. Councillor Barrett.
Nothing.
And Councillor Roberts.
As chairman of the Wimborne Oxenford, it would have been nice to have been consulted about this. Our membership is very, very elderly, probably very sick as well. I have lost my secretary, I have lost my treasurer, and it's very, very difficult. We still would like to do what we've done for a number of years, and that is have a 6 times a year a lunch where all the older members can gather, and they've all got friends in Oxenford that, you know, we communicate with, but they are exactly the same over there. So it's all to do with cheap holiday flights and things. There's no way of getting away from the fact it takes a day to get there, and it's just such a shame, but there's nothing honestly that...
Is there anything that you can do to promote youth wanting to join, or younger members wanting to join?
We've got no younger members.
No, but is there anything that you could do to
You advise me, we've tried everything over the years,
Okay.
and it doesn't work, because the schools, for one thing, don't speak German anymore, or don't teach it.
Right.
I think the only one that did was Paul Grammar, and I'm not sure they do now. So that does make a problem. You know, before we used to have the school orchestra from QE used to go across, the Allendale football used to go across,
Yeah.
but none of this now happens, so.
Maybe it's something that we need to take to the youth council and see if they're even aware that there's an option for.
Well,
It may be, but it's worth, I don't mind speaking to council, helping these back and seeing if that's something that we can at least talk to them about.
And the other thing was Wimbledon in Blue. Their next thing is the duck race, provided there's enough water in the river, because the Allen is down, well, the Wim is down to about that much, and I don't think the Allen is much better, so that is, oh God, when is it? August. I'm not quite sure what the date is now. I did have it on my other piece of paper, but that was about it.
So you'll join my son in praying for rain and happy Sunday.
In the 1970s, there were regular exchanges between the schools in Verloin and Wimborne, and that fell into, that stopped happening for a while. We're now just starting to resurrect it. So it may well be that it's not the end of the road for Oswald. It can be resurrected, but it is, I mean, when I was at school, they taught German, they don't teach it anymore, so it's,
We'll pick up the youth council and see if there's anything in the council.
Can I just reply to that, Chairman?
Yeah.
Because it's all due down to family checking DBS checks. They have to be checked by families here and children to go under, so.
no, I understand.
Councillor?
Nothing to report.
Councillor Jones?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. If I just give a brief update to the my role in Sports and Leisure Forum. I think members will remember at the last full council meeting, I was given authorisation to write on behalf of the forum to the head teacher and to Initio Learning Trust about the Huey Leisure Centre. They recently announced proposals to open up or other areas to community sports clubs, but also we wanted to explore the potential for the leisure centre itself to open to the public. That letter was actually sent on the 25th of June, and I think it's really positive to report that on the 17th of July, Stuart Patterson from the QELC Action Group and myself went and saw the head teacher, Mr. Tom Neal, and Mike Bradley, the Director of Operations. We saw them on the 17th of July. I mean, they're both relatively new in post, and I felt it was a good start, a positive meeting where we just explored, you know, people's boundaries and things. So just before I report that, thank you for letting us send the letter, and let's hope that we can explore that relationship further.
Thank you. Councillor Chuckrock?
Nothing to report.
No. Okay. There is also one to note on here is the DC local plan event, 4th of July. If you want to say anything more about that.
So I attended the local plan event at Dorchester, and I did attach for your documents the briefing that came out. And there's, if I go through each of the pages, these are the things that jumped out to me, which I'll go through with you. At the start of the event, it was reinforced that it's really important that we engage with our ward councillors, and that the local plan consultation that will be taking place shortly, which this brief is all about, needs to be linked to the local transport plan, second round of consultation, so the two things are linked. In terms of the changes to the national framework, the government have brought about an 80% increase in the homes for the county. they've identified that they still need to find 25,000 through land allocations and policy approaches. But they did say this, they can demonstrate, if they can demonstrate they can't meet the target, they don't have to meet that figure, but I think that's a very high bar. There was some context given to the local plan, and then there was a discussion around green belt and grey belt.
So that I found interesting, given some of the issues that we're facing into for loss of green belt between ourselves and Carlton.
So they reiterated the 5 purposes of the green belt, which they are still adhering to, but the grey belt is a new part of it, and that's the key change to the national framework. They went on to talk about transport hubs, what makes grey belts, what makes the exceptional circumstances. They went over the golden rules for the green belt release, and then they put the context for the local plan in terms of whether it was going to be a yes to the proposals on brownfield sites and the presumption, and now how that's changed. And this section here is an additional one to support the economic growth in the key sectors, laboratories, gigafactories, digital infrastructure, freight and logistics, which I think is very relevant to our town. And finally, this is the key thing that I think we need to take away, is we have a deadline to consult on this, December. So it will come to planning and environment, and then hopefully a recommendation to full council.
So, can I propose that the Planning and Environment Committee construct the response and bring it to full council? It seems to sit there.
Yeah.
I'll propose it then.
Could I just ask, please, Chair? When I looked through the document, I saw that there was local plan consultation meetings, and that Wimborne wasn't on that.
No, we're not, and it's probably a question you need to ask our town councillor as the cabinet lead. It's an obvious question to put to Councillor Bartlett.
Okay. Yeah, I saw Ferndown was the nearest one, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to propose that Planning and Environment Committee do the response and bring it to full council. I'll propose that. Anybody like to second that? Councillor all those in favour? Okay. The second point is, can we ask our ward councillor why there's not a consultation in Wimborne given our size? In a way, if they feel that we're done with our housing, I'd see that as quite a good thing, right? So subtly, maybe there's something subliminally there, but it's better to ask the question, Councillor Chuckwater.
Thank you, Chair. Just a different point. So there was funding available, grants available for local plans. The government has taken that away. So the bottom approach, where we have local plans from parishes to inform the district council, i.e. the national plan, that's gone. It allows, in my view, central government to impose housing targets.
So there's another place on this agenda, but I'll bring it up if you're okay. That we've written to our MP about the withdrawal of that funding for the neighbourhood plan. We are still pursuing our neighbourhood plan as it stands. If anything, we're going to try and go faster. Is that okay? Okay, cool. Then there's another climate action working group, telephone box working group, didn't go ahead.
Yeah, we unfortunately council didn't turn up to the climate action working group. I have some apologies. And I think there's a lot of working groups, there's lots of activity, and it might be best placed that we actually include those 2 projects under a full council agenda.
Okay. I just had a thought about telephone boxes going under town culture.
It's the challenge is the listed status, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to turn around anything within the planning environment,
Okay.
but we could definitely follow, put that to the project.
Because there's some super ideas, and
Yeah.
it seems there's an energy there from the entire town. It seems to me that if we want to move to an option faster, that would be a good place for that one to go, Councillor Head.
Yeah, with the apologies for the Climate Action Working Group, I don't feel there was any other councillors that were going to be present alongside myself. So if anyone's up for joining that or has an interest, or perhaps it would follow into environments and planning under the environment section a bit more than it would full council, because a lot of it is more discussion, and the committee environment sort of welcomes a bit more of that discussion.
I'm cool with that.
But there is a lot of working groups, and
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy
Yeah,
with
lovely.
that. Okay, brilliant, thank you. DAPTC are reviewing the option of setting up area boards following the work that's gone into the draft statement of reasonable expectations document. The Town Council's response to this document will come back to full council in September. Okay.
I don't know how people feel about area boards. It's an interesting concept. Sometimes I think they're going full circle.
Yes. And just a note, the officers received a subject access request which the Deputy Clerk is dealing with within statutory timelines. Okay.
Could I ask, Chairman, is all of this on item 6 on the agenda?
It is.
Fine.
It's basically it's from the office, from the town
Yeah.
clerk, it's there.
So we do the ward councillors, we do the police, we do the councillors, we do the office. This is the office list.
Right, thank you.
So, full council minutes to receive the minutes of the full council from the 24th of June, Appendix 1, that's a correct record. Can I have a proposal that I accept it, or any comments? Councillor Chuckwater, seconded Councillor Darlington, all those in favour? Any abstentions? One abstention. Any against? No. Okay, item 8, committee minutes and working group notes. To receive and note the minutes and the notes of the following committee groups: Rec and Leisure Committee, meeting 17th of June, Appendix 2, 1st of July, Appendix 3, and 22nd of July, Appendix 4. Planning and Environment Committee, 17th of June, Appendix 5, and 8th of July, Appendix 6. Town Liaison Group, we've only just had that, so they're not ready, so I'd like to defer those if everybody's minded. Town of Culture Steering Group, again, that was the same day, that was Friday, so I'd like to defer those as well if we're minded. And the Sports Forum notes, 14th of July, Appendix 10, they've been noted. Any comments? Okay. Item 9, recommendations from council standing committees and steering groups. Rec, Leisure and Buildings Committee, accessibility project recommendation. Councillor Bartlett's not here, but I know I was at the meeting, and those at the meeting, please keep me honest on here. Essentially, we were faced with, we were presented with two options. One was to cut through the building and bring a lift from the ground floor to here. I think that was option 2. Option 1 is to build out from the area here and redevelop and bring up from there. We've kind of gone for option 1, the building out there. Concerns were raised in terms of our neighbours and the loss of light into their garden. So I know Councillor Richmond's asked for there to be a backup plan should we struggle with gaining planning permission to do it. And the backup plan would be a smaller, more delicate extension and a redevelopment of that area and the staircase. So essentially our recommendation is to go with option 1 and to have a backup in case we struggle with planning. So I'm happy on Councillor Wright's behalf to propose that. Councillor Richmond second. All those in favour? Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, item 10, finance documents. To consider and review and approve the bank statement reconciliation payments and receipts for June 2025 appendix 11 signed by the chairman. We don't, these would normally go to a Finance and Governance Committee meeting, but we don't have one until September, so the full council needs to approve them. So, as I'm sure you've read them all, has anybody got any comments or would like to propose?
I'm happy to propose everyone, yeah.
Councillor Nash proposes, second Councillor Billington, all those in favour to accept? It's carried. Okay, to consider and note the Town Council's income and expenditure report from the 1st of April to date, Appendix 12, earmarked reserves report, Appendix 13, and SIL payments spends, Appendix 40. Again, these are just for noting, but if you have any questions. Okay, good, thank you. Wimborne Cemetery, okay. To note the activity report from the 1st of April to the 31st of May. This is for noting. Clark, do you want to say anything?
All I'd say is, because we've been managing the site for more than a year now, I've asked the cemetery manager to put in additional columns that we can show comparisons for, and to break that comparison down across the 3 parishes and the non-residents. So there'll be a bit more detail in the next time you see this document.
To consider repairs to a section of the site boundary fence. I know Councillor Sandy and I went out and had a look at it. Councillor Roberts.
I haven't actually seen the appendix, so I can't say I have. But I have looked at the site, and I know there was a very great cost to the actual putting back of the metal fencing. But as it's actually not in the cemetery or part of the cemetery, it's actually part of the groundsman's lodge and garden, I see no reason why it can't just be put back up as fencing, as wooden fencing or that one, because he has taken it down because it was wibbly wobbly. And I cannot see us spending an awful lot of money on that. It is just out of proportion to everything.
I'm sensing Councillor Sandy to my right, so Councillor Sandy.
Well, firstly, it's not a fence, it's railings. It's part of the original structure. It's part of the lodge. The lodge is a listed building. I would argue that the railings are called a fence there. The railings are also listed, and I think they should be repaired. They're irreplaceable. No?
Chairman, can I just say that 14,500 for that, to me, a considerably small amount of railings is absolutely extortionate. And as I said, I know it's got the bottom concrete bit or stone bit and a pillar, but I just see no point in us spending an awful lot of money which can be easily spent elsewhere in this town, other than spending £14,500 on Parsons Garden.
Councillor Bell.
Mr. Chairman, can someone say this is listed? Is it listed grade 2?
A house?
Right.
Yes.
Well, it's incumbent upon whoever owns it, when it's listed like that, to keep it repaired. I mean, a member of the public could force us into that, I would imagine. But if it's a listed building, then it falls upon the owners of it to maintain that building.
Okay, any other comments? Thoughts? Councillor Chatwell.
Thank you. If it's an issue of cost, Chair, I wonder whether the financing could be broken up maybe over a number of years.
Could I ask another question?
Councillor Bell.
We went, on one of the agenda items just now, there was a report on the SIL, and it was about 70 or 80,000 quid in the SIL account. And I've been wondering whether that money could be used for for some of the things that we've been talking about, such as maintenance of cemetery. And now, this item that we're talking about, whether, I know it's laid down on what the community infrastructure levy can be used for, but it might be flexible enough to actually do this job from money that's lying there.
From my knowledge, I think we might struggle, but it's definitely worth having a look. Councillor Roberts.
Chairman, are we going to spend more on the dead than we are on the living? You know, this is just a boundary fence outside of someone's garage. And I know because I live opposite it. And if you want me to declare an interest, I will. But there was a wooden fence behind that before. And to have to put the metal railings back, it is an extortionate amount of money.
So, Clark, can I just ask, where would the finance come in? Would it come from the cemetery budget? That is because, with respect, money is paid to place people there.
So the budget was worked out for the cemetery in terms of working out income based on the last few years, and we have a number of budget lines, including repairs to the log, repairs to the chapel, general maintenance repairs, but they only come to £7,000 in total.
Councillor Jacks.
Are we sure that the railings are covered by the listing of the building, rated listing or not? Oh, I mean, is that a definite?
Yeah, because they're part of the lodge.
Councillor Richmond had his hand up for a little while.
Yeah, I agree with the principle that it should be repaired, but I'm just concerned that some of these are restoring it to its 19th century condition. I think we should just look at it with a view to maintaining it really and bringing it back, but not to perfection.
Just to speak to 2.3, firstly to Councillor Burt, the SIL money that we can use, we are trying to use in various areas, and we're trying to be more proactive about that now. So hopefully, as the years go on, they'll come back to us in those ways. The other part is really that where we expect as a council people to keep listed properties at a standard, we really do have to do that ourselves. So considering what that is this something we could send back to Planning and Environment for a recommendation on Councillor Richmond's suggestion?
I would say that, I mean, I've looked at these railings, and the railings themselves are fine. It's only the stone that's been actually displaced by trees that have been allowed to grow the roots. So I do think that I think Councillor Richmond may be correct that, otherwise I agree with Councillor Richmond that maybe it's, seeking to restore it to original value and that may account for some of the cost.
So can I propose that we take it back to Planning and Environment and we explore a way of making it, looking at it, the restoration with a slightly different view in terms of not going back to complete original, but to make it look like it is part of the age that it is. Councillor Bell.
Well, just one final comment from me, Mr. Chairman. If we, as a town council, don't maintain buildings that are listed, that's not setting a very good example for the wider public. Because we would expect people who have listed buildings to maintain them, and it's really obligatory. That's my understanding.
That was why my proposal was for it to go back to Planning and Environment, because it may not be obligatory to put it back to brand new. It may be obligatory to get it to a state where it looks in keeping with the other parts of the fence. Otherwise, what we'll have is a brand new fence one side and a weathered 19th century fence the other side.
sorry, I'm a trustee of a listed building in the town. And we don't have any, we've got English Heritage and the local authority making sure that we keep it as it should be. And
It's the as it should be that we need to establish.
And we're forced into it. And the local authority not maintaining listed buildings that it owns, that's not a very good example. I've said enough.
Okay. I don't think we're suggesting that. What we're suggesting is that we have a look at the whole, that we look at the costs and see whether there is a better or more palatable cost that we can derive while still getting the same outcome. Clark.
I know that you've made a proposal, but it could be that part of the referral to the PC is to engage with the conservation officer.
And I was going to say, following from Councillor Bert's comments, I would absolutely want to get their advice. So I'll propose that we contact the conservation officer, that we revisit the site, that we see what the minimum standard he requires or she requires, and then we go forward with whatever quote is, and just pray that it isn't £30,000 next time. That's my proposal. Councillor Nash?
Can I amend that to taking it back to PEC before it comes back? So the quote.
Correct. It will come then back to PEC as recommendation. Yeah. So, Councillor Hector, do you want a second or do you want to say something?
Sorry, just to say
That's
something.
okay.
So as part of that proposal, would we also be targeting, again, the 3 quotes to revise to see whether what the conservation officer suggests that we would then take it down a notch? Because these are like perfect bespoke quotes of all their craft and trade, that they've practiced for years on. They want to give us the best, but what we're saying is we want it to look exactly like this, but just straight and fixed.
Correct.
So that would be part of the proposal to revise the quote.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Okay, so I need a second then. Okay, Councillor Ryan, and all those in favour? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. To consider adopting Friends of Wimborne Cemetery Terms of Reference Appendix 17. Can you explain, Clark, a little bit more about that?
Yes. When the Joint Management Committee ceased, the part of the agreement for the ceasing of the committee was to continue to work with Pamplin, Shapwick and Coal Hill through a Friends of Wimborne Cemetery group. The idea is that volunteers would have an impact in the management and the day-to-day site. So, based on what takes place in other cemeteries and other local authorities, the cemetery manager and I have come up with a draft document. The terms of reference. So, there's the 3 bullet points about the purpose. There's 5 bullet points with regard to activities, the membership, roles, meetings, authority, other matters. And I think the idea is that if the council's happy with this, we would then take it to Coal Hill and Pamplin and Shapwick and hopefully get something in place for the Town of Culture programme of events.
And do you propose to take it forward? Councillor Jones? Proposed. And Councillor Burns is seconded. All those in favour? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. We've covered the last item earlier on, so I'll move on to item 12, which was a strategic plan review. And we've kind of covered that, so...
I'm asking if it's preferred, because I haven't had time to update the tracking document. Okay. I know I keep putting it off, I apologise. September.
I spoke to the neighbourhood plan, Martha. She may have a better tracker.
Oh, lovely. That's
easier to maintain and easier for us to publish. So it may be worth us syncing. Okay, item 13 then, correspondence consultation. To consider a request from Wimborne Bid to provide a testimonial from the town mayor to be included in the BID's business plan and vote in the forthcoming ballot.
Can I ask, when is this forthcoming balance?
It's October.
As the mayor isn't here, should we defer this to September?
You can defer it till September, or you could authorise or say that you're happy for the town mayor and office to come up with a testimonial and pass it on to the bid.
So do we want to propose that? Councillor Billington, seconded Councillor Nash, all those in favour? Any abstentions? Any against? One against, Councillor Roberts. To consider engagement of the internal auditor for 2025-2026 and confirmation of independence from the town council. So propose to accept Lighter Touch to deliver internal audit services to Wimborne Minster Town Council for the period of 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026, based on the agreed scope which was set out in the original internal audit quotation, and the town council confirms that Lighter Touch is completely independent of council. So you just need a second there.
Yes, it's it just has to be minutes every year
So
for the external audit process.
okay, so you don't need a proposal, that's the proposal.
Yeah,
That's the proposal.
that we just read out.
Right,
Yeah.
fine, so that's from me.
Yeah.
So second by Councillor Nash, all those in favour? Okay, let's have it on. Excellent. To consider a fundraising request, recommend, so we've got a fundraising request from somebody that's, I think it's an individual, isn't it? That's
Student.
a student that's looking. Yeah. Just in case you don't see it.
This is this letter from Eloise.
Eloise, correct.
And when I read that, I thought, that's a very sophisticated letter for a 13-year-old girl.
So there it is. So I think we need to acknowledge the request and wish her well. I mean, we don't support or pay individual monetary funding requests as per our financial regulations. Councillor Richmond?
Yeah, I had a look on the website, the QR code, but I can't remember what year she's doing this. Is she doing this in our year of culture year?
That I don't know.
No, I think she's doing it in the foreseeable future, before the end of this year.
Councillor Nash, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a terrible swine. I massively applaud this young lady's effort, but I don't quite understand why this has come to full council.
Because she's written to Wimborne Town Council.
Do we, every letter that gets written to Wimborne Town Council appears on the agenda? Is this standard?
Because it's a request for money.
We do have a grants process.
We do, but it doesn't meet our financial regulations or our grant process requirements because it's an individual person. So
I was confused by that, but it's lovely to see someone taking some action to do some wonderful things.
Yeah, I mean, wish them well, and I don't know if there's any other areas that we can suggest they try to fund in. It might be quite nice. Okay. Moving on, to note the latest Dorset Council local plan, which we've covered, so we'll move on from that. To note the letter from Citizens Advice, East Dorset and Purbeck. That's for noting. Any comments on that? Okay. To vote on the Sports and Leisure Forum meeting minutes.
yeah, Bill's
Covered that. To agree on a response to the Right Honourable Vicky Sade, this is the what I said earlier about, sorry, Councillor Sandy.
She's not a member of Privy Council. So she's just Vicky Sade.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's right, Councillor Nash.
You are not the chair of the Policy and Environment Committee.
No, that's fine. Okay. No, that's a good spot.
Thanks. It's
Okay.
on the signature and the head.
So yeah. So essentially we want to propose, but other than that, which we'll tidy up, have a proposal that we send a letter about to try and stop us. Yeah, so proposed Councillor Nash, second Councillor Jaggs, all those in favour? So we just tidy up the wording. Anybody against? Councillor
I'm not against, just say through my other work elsewhere, this has come up in terms of funding options, the seal money has been recommended as an option.
Yeah, it
Just so
seems
that
counterintuitive, really.
Yes.
I don't think that's what seal money is.
Only Dorset Council confirmed that got an email for if that was required, because I've had to make some inquiries elsewhere. Only if it's required.
I would suggest back to Dorset Council that the money that they take off the seal before we get it might be something that could be diverted to our neighbourhood plan, right?
Yeah.
Let's consider the amounts that go to them.
Yeah.
Let's not go that. So moving on, to consider responding to Dorset Council's local nature recovery strategy consultation. The deadline is the 30th of July. So essentially, given the timelines, proposed this is done via email by members of the Planning Environment Committee, second room vote. So yeah, how would we do it? Can you just talk me through that?
So basically, we've got 24 hours to put a response in. I could ask for a deadline, and it would probably have to be done. The proposal is, who would like to get involved in PEC and do it online, basically?
Any volunteers? Councillor Hector?
Do you not just click on the link and do the survey, it's
Yes.
10 minutes and it's done? Yeah.
Councillor Hector? Perfect.
Proposal.
I'll propose Councillor Hector, seconded Councillor Nash. All those in favour? Yay. Item 14, future meetings. Planning Environment Committee meeting 19th of August, 9th and 30th of September.
Chairman, just to say, next one you get into Sports and Leisure Forum is on the 8th of September.
8th of September, okay, thank you. Community Events and Liaison Committee, 2nd of September. Climate Action Working Group, 9th of September. Why is that coming about? What else is happening on the 9th of September?
Well, we said we'd add the climate into P&E now, so I don't know.
P&E's, okay, so we've got a meeting on the 9th of September anyway. So we add that in. Okay. Jubilee Garden Working Group, 10th of September. Joint Working Group, 11th of September. Finance and Governance Committee meeting, 16th of September. Rec, Leisure and Buildings Committee and Red Cross Working Group, 23rd of September. Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group, 24th of September. Town Liaison Group and Town Culture Steering Group, 26th of September. Youth Council and Full Council, 30th of September. So it's a lot to look forward to.
Enjoy all this.
Okay, we're now going to move into a confidential item of exempt business. So, in order to do that, is there something I need to do?
There's a standard.
Yeah, okay. So it's exempt business resolution to resolve that under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960.
Just tell me how.
Yeah. I can see what it is there. As extended by S100 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and accredited representatives, newspapers be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds, but it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information